guys, welcome back to the CayVin Universe. We have a super exciting guest for you today. He is the Willy Wonka of the Midwest, and he is the Chief Chocolate Officer at Bissinger's Chocolate. Here we have Dan Abel. Dan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing super, super good. I kept saying coffee in the beginning of that. I don't know why I was getting coffee and chocolate mixed up, but I'm sorry. I apologize again.
Well, it's almost all the same for us because we're actually opening a cafe in about 2 months. So
Oh,
we are going to have a whole coffee division and wine bar connected to this manufacturing facility. So
wow. That's
yeah,
very,
so we're trying to dabble in everything.
yeah, that's
But as you said it, I'm like there has a nice ring to it. I'm glad we're doing Bissinger's coffee.
Nice. Well, there you go. See, it kind of works out. But yeah, so Dan, I kind of want to start from the beginning. I know your family acquired this business in 2019, but
Yes,
it has been around for well over 350 years, originating
you
in
believe it?
Paris.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit how the company started.
They we always kind of like to jokingly say that because we don't have a tweet or a Facebook post on the day that they started, um, we basically begin the history in 1668, which is when they were appointed as the Confesseur Impérial, which is chocolatier to the empire by the King of France, and that was Louis the 14th. And so, 1668, I think is a great time to start. We think that maybe they were around for a little bit longer. You have to kind of be established, I would think, to become the king's chocolatier, but who knows? So 1668 is where we start the story. We believe that it probably started a little bit beforehand, and then it wasn't until the mid 1800s where they actually moved the company to the United States, and that was the first time a consumer can go in and experience Bissingers for themselves because while they were in Paris, they pretty much were just, served at the Palace of Versailles for the royal family and their guests.
Hmm. So it's like so you're established in Paris, and then when did it move to the United States?
1845.
1845. And it moved straight to St. Louis, or did it ever like go anywhere else?
I actually started in Cincinnati,
Oh,
Ohio, and then it came to St. Louis in 1927. So it's funny, 350-year company, but we're actually planning the 100th year anniversary in St. Louis coming up in 2027, which we're excited about. But even that 100 years is, a massive milestone, and only a single percentage of companies last that long, but yet it's only not even one third of Bissinger's history. It's almost one fourth of Bissinger's history. So it just shows the longevity of this brand.
yeah. Do y'all have a plan for when the 10-year celebration? Will you have like a special edition chocolate or like
We
some
were talking about that. We were talking about a couple things, and one of the things that we love to do is really look back in the archives. And one of the recipe books that we have is from 1899. And so every once in a while, we like to release a lot of vault creations that were, under lock and key in the old recipe book. So maybe something with that, maybe looking at, trying to find some artifacts of some old packaging and, doing a limited edition creation of what the Bissinger's box looked like in 1927, for example. So, we always like to make sure that Bissinger's kind of lives at the crossroads between legacy and innovation. So we always like to lean on that legacy, but we want to stay relevant and make sure that we're crafting products for 2025 and 2026 and so on.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you're very firm on like sticking to the recipe, as
Yes.
as you say, like you're very firm on sticking with the original chocolate recipe. And just considering with like how the industry is and how people are always kind of changing it up, why do you feel so like good of importance to stick to that?
Well, there's so many the short answer with that is it's worked so well for such a long time.
Mhm.
Um, the ingredient selection, and I have a unique position because I was a customer. We own another candy company in town before we acquired Bissinger's, but I've always was a customer of Bissinger's, and now as an owner, I can see both sides of it. So it's so highly respected and regarded for the brand's quality that we want to make sure that we never and there's kind of three steps to the recipe. So inside the recipe itself is like, here's the recipe. So that's like, this much sugar, this much butter, the basic recipe. But then the quality of those ingredients, because even if you take the exact recipe and just use lower quality ingredients, you're going to get a lower quality product. So keeping those very extreme high standards and using the same quality of ingredients is very important to us. And then finally, it's the artisans that make it. I can give you the exact ingredients. It's I could, if you've ever baked something at home or something that, for me, baking is I'm not nearly as good of a baker as I am as a chocolatier. And so I have made a cake with the same ingredients in my pantry, and then my wife has made the same cake, same recipe and same ingredients, and hers is always better. And because that's the talent and that's the artisans that really that our staff has and truly knows. And our head candy maker, who my brother and I have learned under, he started at Bissingers in 1996, and his father-in-law taught him, and he had spent 50 years at Bissingers, and his father-in-law's father was Carl Bissinger's original candy maker. So with the lineage of the education that we have from the Bissingers master candy makers goes back over 100 years.
Yeah. And speaking of like, yeah, like the quality of chocolate, did mention, forgot to mention in the beginning, you did so kindly send us a box of chocolate
Of
here.
course, yeah, Castle and Key, we're excited about that one.
Yes, this one was so good, and like the quality of it is very like you can taste like the richness in it. And I'm not a dark chocolate person, but I had to put these away. I was like, gotta save some of these for later. But yeah, so this is alcohol infused. So tell us like more about how like that came about. I haven't not really seen much.
And so I always try to take a step back a little bit and say, what is specialty craft chocolate like? And in a lot of cases, it's like, specialty wine and specialty craft cocktails and bourbon. Bourbon is one of those amazing things where you distill this alcohol, but then it takes years of maturing in the barrel to get that taste profile. And it's that master distiller that's going in and tasting it and to see when it's exactly right. And so I have this appreciation for both wine and bourbon, and I love how they complement in chocolate. So we actually become friends with a few different brands in the bourbon industry, and Castle and Key has a very similar story to Bissinger's. It's a very small batch artisan distillery. It's this beautiful castle. I was fortunate to go down there and get a tour of it this year. Very limited production, very small batch on purpose. They don't want to go into mass production. They want to keep it very exclusive. And that's, Bissinger's is the same because everything we do is handmade. And so we talked about, can we do something together? And we actually created three products this year. One to represent their vodka, which is the espresso martini truffle. Oh, I know, right?
Sounds heavenly.
It's so good. I mean, it's everything you want. It's, the espresso ganache and then vodka and then chocolate. And then
Mhm.
like we started with a gin and tonic chocolate bar with their gin. And their gin is such a unique botanical rich product. Like I love gin so much, and there's drinking their gin is a unique experience. So it's just awesome. We were excited to work with it for the gin and tonic bar. And then finally the third one, of course, you can't, bourbon is still the king. And so the bourbon caramel with dark chocolate. And the really cool thing with their brand story is so important. Their attention to detail, the mold we made, the shape of that piece was actually a replica of their bottle top. They have this very special bottle top. They didn't just go create a generic bottle top when they made their packaging. Their bottle top is really unique. And so we had that piece made to
Mhm.
represent that. And that's that, I love that 110% effort that they put into their branding. And that's what we really try to carry forward with.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, like the quality, the presence of it, like yeah, just how it looks. That's really interesting, the bottle cap. That's a really
Mhm.
interesting yeah, take to it. Now, with the chocolate process itself, I know Bissingers has 7 production lines that you all work off. So, how does a process work? How do you make your chocolate?
Yeah, line 8 is coming in any day. It's about 10 days away from
Oh,
coming in.
wow.
We're doing this factory expansion. We're very excited for line 8 to come in. But we typically do two styles of manufacturing. So the first style is enrobing,
Hmm.
and think of that I Love Lucy episode with the production line and candy coming off the line. But enrobing really is when you take like a center, like a caramel center, and then it goes through that waterfall of chocolate and it's covering chocolate. And that's your traditional manufacturer. Most of our box chocolates are enrobed confections. And then the second part of it is the molded side where we're actually doing forming and shaping the chocolate and the center at the same time. So that's the Castle and Key bourbon caramel. You notice that's a molded piece, and it's very shiny, and all the little details of that form, that shape come through. And so we have 4 enrobing lines, and now we're gonna have 4 molding lines. So it's about 50-50. And then um, our assortments now, we're starting to kind of mix the two together because we used to do all molded, shell molded pieces in one and all in row pieces in the other. But it's kind of people really like the hybrid. They like to open a box of chocolates and have each piece be unique and different.
Mhm.
And so we're starting to really incorporate both together. But I would say the difference between us and another manufacturer is that each line makes a different product every day. And so even if we needed to go make 1 million salted caramels, for example, we
Mhm.
would just go make 1,000 small batches instead of, one really big batch.
Mhm.
And our batch of caramels is a 100-pound batch, which makes 3,200 caramels. And so at the holidays, we get, big orders for dark sea salt caramels, for example, and we still make 100-pound batches of caramel. And we just may run 20 of those in a day,
Mhm.
but that is the Bissinger's way. It is just a lot of small batch production.
Yeah, I like how that rhymed there. That was a good rhyme.
Sometimes you just get lucky.
So like how do y'all come up with like new products? Because I was browsing your website and really anything you can think of, you all guys offer and make. So how do you come up with like new and innovating products?
I would say so. My brother, sister, and I are all part of the family ownership, and our head candy maker we're really close with. The four of us sit down a lot and just have a very informal, open dialogue. And we just talk about like, what do you think? Hey, let's talk about a chocolate bar. What's good right now? Let's take a look. What's not selling? What's selling? And sometimes we do this, and it takes 20 minutes. Sometimes it takes 40 minutes. Sometimes it's on a Wednesday afternoon. Sometimes it's on Friday. And I just think the looseness of it allows creative thinking. There's no wrong answer. A lot of times, sometimes we come away with 10 ideas and we're like, oh my gosh, we got to figure out how to get all these in the catalog. And then there are times where we come up with nothing. And I think that we've worked with each other for such a long time. We work, together, whether it's on the production floor or in the office, anywhere it needs to be done. And so I would say about 75 to 80% of the innovation comes from that style. And then the balance comes from we don't really watch trends or we're trying not to jump on fads, but like the Castle and Key three products that we had just talked about,
Hmm.
we had met them and kind of talked to them and we said, okay, well, how could we, do something for each spirit? And those products came from just, making a new friend in the industry type thing. And so the other side of the last 25% that doesn't happen in our innovation room just happens from pure luck and pure, just, and sometimes I just wake up at 3 in the morning and I'm like, we've got to do this. And then I usually bring it to our little committee meetings and then, sometimes a 3 a.m. idea is not good at 8 a.m.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I get, I always say my brother and sister do a really good job at checking my ego, and they humble me all the time. So sometimes like, no, that's not a good idea. I don't know where you came. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And like working with your family and stuff, like does that ever get challenging or do y'all have like a pretty strong dynamic?
It's phenomenal. I would say that the company has gotten, you know, it, 20 years ago, it was all of us in one room in, a 2,000 square foot building. That was the office, the warehouse, the manufacturing, and the retail. And it was so much smaller company. We certainly would have butt heads if the company was, but now now there's 5 retail stores and 2 facilities and everything. So there's a lot of we have we have our accountants we work with, our lawyers, we have payroll processing, human resources, and quality team. So there's a lot of different layers to the company as it's grown, and we all have kind of different specialties and handle. I'd say my brother, sister, and I each kind of handle a third of the pie,
Hmm.
and we don't really overlap. Um, so because of that, I think that it really works for us.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's really good. Like I said, just to have this strong family dynamic, be able to, yeah, it seems like I have really good open communication,
Mhm.
even at 3 a.m. So,
Sometimes
uh,
we're at work together at 3 a.m. I have a 5 o'clock rule where everyone has got to be out of here by 5 o'clock.
uh,
And we run that like 99% of the time. So if we need to get more work done, we start at 3 or 4 in the morning so we can
yeah,
be out at about 5 o'clock.
yeah. Well, that works. Have you faced like any like major obstacles since you've like acquired Bissinger? Like how is there anything that's really coming your way?
I don't know if we've gone 5 straight days without a major obstacle. Uh, I mean, just,
Okay.
we bought the company and
Yeah.
integrating it was very tough. And then, it's like, which manufacturing software do we use? Which mail order software do we use? And then we have 2 production supervisors. Who do we, and so all of that was 2019 and it was very, much where we needed to all, make very quick decisions and hopefully make the right ones. And then COVID came along and our stores had to close and some of our distributor partners went out of business and a lot of our retail partners had temporary closed. Luckily, online did very well, and it was a growth year for the brand.
Yeah.
But we didn't know in March of 2020. It was just, and then the supply chain disasters of since then. Now chocolate as things in 2024 starting to, or late 23 and 24 started to kind of normalize and seem to come back to life.
Yeah.
Chocolate has tripled in price, and now we're in this cocoa crisis, and so we are, on a given week, we're paying anywhere from 20 to $30,000 more a week for chocolate than we were last year at this time. So it's a very big deal. And then how do we can't shock our customer and
Right.
just double the price of the chocolate bar because that's just not, then sales go down. So we're trying to find ways on absorbing that cost or absorbing as much as we can or trying, and so, but I will say, if there is like a standard Monday through Friday and everything just acts smoothly, I get very bored.
Oh,
So
okay. So like
I'm
it
I'm
makes you go
chaos kind of fuels me.
okay.
Is that healthy?
Yeah.
No. Like I know it's a me problem, but I've gotten so used to it that like, it's just kind of my orbit here. We always say that I live in controlled chaos, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Now, what would you say like sets your brand apart from others? Because of course there are other like, well-known like chocolate industries
Mhm.
or chocolate businesses and stuff like that. So like what sets you all apart?
Yeah, that's a great question. And our goal has never been to be the biggest, only the finest. And we truly believe that there's no other brand in the world that has the legacy of the Bissingers, 350 years of excellence. And so that pillar, and our job is to continuously tell that story because it doesn't matter. The legacy of the Bissingers doesn't matter if you don't know what it is. And so we need to continuously keep educating our customer base. And so I always say that we don't sell chocolate, we tell our story. That to us is a major pillar, but quality and craftsmanship. I mean, I think we're probably one of the largest handmade chocolatiers in the country because when you're really small, you start out hand making everything. And then you start to automate and automate and automate. And then eventually, if you become this big, massive company, the product you made when you were in your, parents' basement is very different than the product you make, you have on the shelf at a Walmart. And our goal is never to be in, you know, 10,000 or 20,000 retail stores. Our goal is to be in very, exclusive premium accounts and our own boutiques and our own direct to consumer division. So we know that we'll never be able to supply the world, and truly the product is handmade in the same fashion as it was almost 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And people are shell shocked when they come into the factory and see like every truffle is hand decorated and hand swirled, and the a vanilla caramel has a V on it that we actually, with a glove on. We never, I always say handmade, but never touched by human hands. And so they tap every single piece as it goes down the line and puts its signature stripe on it, or drizzle, or decoration, and then hand packed into the box chocolate assortments. And to us, it's everything. The handcrafted, Bissinger's full name is Bissinger's handcrafted chocolatier. And I think the most important word is the handcrafted. And that's what we truly stand by the most.
Yeah, for sure. That's so cool. Do y'all have like an observation deck that people can come and see?
We do. So we offer free factory tours for both of our companies. And since we've moved Bissinger's into the facility, things got really big really quickly. So we've kind of just the tour you haven't been able to see as much, but with this new expansion that we're doing that's going to be finished in late August, you'll be able to see about 5 times as much on a tour coming up. We're gonna, instead of a 15-minute tour, the tour is going to be at least 30 to 40 minutes. You're going to go through, start in the new facility and then end in the existing facility, and you're going to see literally the whole process. So we're very excited to show off more of
Yeah.
our operation to everybody.
Yeah, that sounds so exciting. What is like y'all's best-selling candy?
Oh, that's a good question. I think salted caramels, our bear claws, which is pecans, caramel, and chocolate, and our fruits. So Bissinger's, candied fruits are very popular in Europe. We get most of our candied fruits still in France. They're candied for us to the recipes and specs that Bissinger's has been doing for decades, almost a century. And then we dip it in chocolate here in St. Louis. Those are some of my favorites, and they're some of the most unique. But
Yeah.
then also just the classic assortments. I mean, people, it's a little bit of toffee, a little bit of caramels, a little, a little bit of truffles, some French creams, and some unique pieces in there. And I think that, when you open a box, because I'm like the biggest boxed chocolate. I go everywhere and I get a boxed chocolate. I just always like, and so half the pieces are round and half the pieces are square in a generic boxed chocolate. It drives me crazy. Every shape is different on Bissingers. We have square pieces, we have ovals, we have a crown shape, we have a diamond or a jewel shape, we have a teardrop shape. And so you open up that assortment and it's just this beautiful offering, and every single one's unique. And we're
Mhm.
very purposely do that. And so I think people really gravitate towards our assortments because of that.
Yeah. Man, I had two questions on my head, but one I want to ask this is, what's like the busiest time of year for y'all? Like, would you say like Valentine's Day? Y'all
Christmas.
get super, oh, Christmas. Oh, yes,
Christmas,
of
yeah.
course.
We
Uh,
are so we're not making Christmas product now, but
mm,
we are in all every day, every hour of today has almost been about Christmas. About Christmas, talking to some of our bigger accounts right now about getting their Christmas numbers in, getting their allocation. We're talking with our supply chain, and we're ordering paper, we're ordering boxes, we're designing. We're it's 6 months of the year of Christmas, and it's 4 months of planning and 2 months of production, and then we start over, and then January is about recapping about Christmas, and then February is Valentine's. So Christmas is almost the majority of the year now.
yeah. So back to the fruits one, because that was one thing that really caught my attention while visiting your website. You have y'all are advertising chocolate raspberries, and I saw.
Yes, that's our exclusive July special.
Yes, I saw that right off the bat, and then I saw like the oranges. Now I thought like the type of fruit that y'all are dipping, is that like fruit, like, because fruit has to be in season. Do y'all only
Mhm.
do that during seasonal times, or do y'all do that like throughout the year?
A little bit of both. So the Valencia oranges that we have dipped in chocolate, those come out of France, and they only bring those in season, and then they're able to candy them, and so they stay preserved. And so that one we have a little bit of flexibility. We can sell that 12 months of the year. The raspberries, though, are at their peak in the month of July, so we only sell those for 30 days, and it starts in just so we have it online right now for pre-orders,
Mhm.
but you can't if you bought them today, you cannot get them. The first ship date this year is June 30th. So then you receive them on July 1st if you overnight them to yourself. And it truly is a fresh raspberry. They're flown in, and we go to the airport from the farmer. I mean, it's a thing. It's 6 a.m. We pick them up, we bring them here, we dip every single one in fondant and then cover them in chocolate. And they last about 4 days. And so we do a big business in the beginning because a lot of people, that's their tradition to have them for July 4th parties. And I mean, they just want to have the first batch of the year. And then we have paused production in the past. We try not to, but sometimes in the middle of July, the crop is not as good, so we'll stop and let our customers know if we have to, because we will not dip a raspberry that's not perfect.
Oh wow. Well, that says a lot about, just based off everything that you've said, and like just even that alone, like, yeah, you all take such pride into this business. It's really, yeah, it's really awesome.
Thank you.
Um, so I'm assuming as chief chocolate officer, you do a lot of taste testing. Do you
I
ever
do.
like get like burnt out? Like you're like, I seriously cannot have any more chocolate right
I'm still waiting for that day to happen.
now.
Uh, we make so many hundreds of different confections, and so, I haven't had a Bissinger's dark chocolate vanilla buttercream probably in 6 months. I
Mhm.
love it. I think it's a great product, but I just had a chocolate covered strawberry 10 minutes ago. So, I'm always eating chocolate. I always love chocolate. We make so many products that sometimes I go down the packing and I'm like, I haven't had one of those in a year, and then I try it, I'm like, oh, it's so good. But the team taste tests, when they're making it, the candy maker will taste test every single batch to make sure it meets the standards. And then we've been in about 6 months of the year. It's always about innovation, new products. But then the back half of the year, we have to stop
Mm,
and then focus on the fall season and the Christmas season. And then Valentine's ramps up. Most of Valentine's ships to our national accounts in the month of November, December. So the second half of the year is really compressed with all of the seasons at one time, and so we only give ourselves 6 months to innovate, and then 6 months is, production. So we're coming to the end. The July 4th holiday is the changeover. So we're coming to the end of that. And so then
yeah.
I won't have those opportunities to taste, new innovations in the test kitchen for a while.
Oh man. Well, um, let's see, what was one thing? Oh yes, one thing I wanted to ask about you is what is like the most rewarding part of your job?
That comes in many forms. I mean, I as a buying Bissingers, because we were another chocolate company in town, and our quality standards at chocolate are extremely high, but we do things differently. Like Bissinger's chocolate still is made in Europe, and
Mhm.
with chocolate, it's made in North America. Both really premium chocolates, but they just have different flavor profiles. And so with regards to Bissinger specifically, there was a lot of in the local side of the customer base that they thought we were just gonna that we just bought the brand to kill it, for example. And this is going back 6 years ago. And so it was so rewarding to me for people to come up to me and be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm just at Bissinger's. I wanted to see how it was, and it's still just as, it's as good as I remember or better than I remember, and
Yeah.
what you guys have done to the brand." And so that's with regards to that's a big deal for me. But I read every single website comment. I try to read every review. Um, so we really try to connect, at the retail level when a new product comes out. I'm talking to our managers and team members and what's the response? How do people like it? Let's go sample. And so as we take all that in, because we also learn a lot when we make products that people don't like. So it's we keep you have to keep seeing what the direction is. And so if we make all soft center things, for example, and all of a sudden we make a new toffee piece that's hard and crunchy and people go crazy over it, you have to kind of step back and say, hey, maybe we need to make more of that. So there's so many different ways that have but it's every little detail. I mean, we truly pride ourselves in making both of our companies. We feel like every year has to be better than the last one,
Mm,
and so we try to top it in different ways. And those are the most rewarding experiences for me.
that's really good. So yeah, how did y'all come up with Chief Chocolate Officer, and what are some
Well,
other
I make the business cards, so I got to pick that one.
Oh, okay, there you go. What about like your siblings? Like what are their titles? I'm curious.
One's chief candy officer, and I think my sister is I think she wanted to be chief caramel officer. So
Oh,
we have on the business cards because as there's as a family ownership and with the parent company on paper we're all executive vice president of blah blah blah. So vice president of administration, vice president of operations, and so if I have to sign a legal document, I'm vice president of operations, and so it's just, it's kind of like all of our business cards look like bankers. Like wasn't as fun. So we try to get into a little bit more creativity and the fun of the brand.
nice, fun. So and you had mentioned a few times, so not only can people find your products online, but where can people find them like in store? Like if they're local to St. Louis or if y'all have
Yeah,
anywhere.
absolutely. So local boutiques we'll be opening more retail this year and next year. We're very excited for retail expansion coming up.
Mhm.
That's a little teaser. We haven't formally announced anything just yet, but I would say keep your ear to the ground on that one. We'll be announcing
Yeah.
something very soon. But also there's a
Yeah.
lot of really great places around the country that carries Bissinger, such as Barnes and Noble stores,
Oh, okay.
the Paper Source, Dillard's, and then a lot of specialty grocery stores and specialty shops from coast to coast. So, there's a lot of really great places you can buy if you're not in St. Louis or if you're not an online shopper.
Awesome. Awesome. In the beginning you mentioned that y'all are rolling out some cafes and I think like a bar, is that
Yes,
what
so that
you're talking about?
we've been on this. We bought the property next to us, and about a year and a half ago,
Mm,
and we've been building this new expansion. So we're doubling the size of the factory, and in this one section of it, we're going to have the cafe, which is going to be the new tourism welcome center and cafe, a little bit of a wine bar connected to it as well. But then on the property, hidden somewhere, is a private speakeasy, and we're we have sold some private events already for it, and so we're gonna kind of do a little bit of a dry run with how we incorporate that
mhm.
to the public, and we're gonna have a full liquor license, and it's gonna be a truly and it's I feel like this one truly is like a page out of a fairy tale because we didn't let anyone design it except ourselves, and so we scoured the like I Speakeasy R&D is the most fun ever because you just go to bars and drink. So
Yeah.
we literally went to all different bars and speakeasies and then picked the best of asset of each one of those and then have put it into this speakeasy. So everything you see that we're doing in this new has been kind of our own imagination.
Yeah. That
We
sounds
hid we hid the budget many ways to pay for this thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. I can imagine, but hey, hopefully it'll all be worth it in the end because that
Yeah.
sounds really exciting. Yeah, so tell the audience like where they can find information about Bissingers, I'm sorry, on social media, the website.
Yep. We're on Facebook and Instagram primarily, and then Bissingers.com. And then, Bissingers.com is the most up to date. We also, if you order online, we have 7 catalogs that we print and publish every year. And we take our catalog photo shoots very seriously. We really, we put a lot into making the catalog experience rewarding for you to, turn the page every time. So, if you order, you get added to the catalog list unless you don't want to be. And that's where a lot of people truly know Bissingers over, from coast to coast is that catalog.
Nice, nice. That's so, so good. One question I wanted to end with, just something fun is if you could invent a dream candy chocolate bar with no limits, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question.
I
Ooh,
assume it's something
no.
that you probably thought of at 3 in the morning.
I was gonna say, I feel like I've I like the idea of layers. So like a caramel bar with toffee layer, just a multiple layered bar because it's something we can't do right now because of our equipment. We could either do all fillings or all solid. And so I'd love to see just kind of a creation of everything coming together in a bar.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. Well, Dan, this has been such a great conversation. Guys, be sure you check out the website, sign up for the catalog, and yeah, if you're local to St. Louis, even better, you can visit the factory and all that stuff. So, was there anything else you wanted to speak on, Dan?
I think we got everything. I appreciate you having me on. I mean, I absolutely loved talking about the brand and the history, and so this was great for me.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. And yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. All right, Dan. Well, yeah, this has been a great conversation. We'll go ahead and end it there, guys.
Thank you so much.